In the next 60 seconds, someone will lose their temper at you, and what you say next will either escalate the situation or make them apologize. Studies show that 67% of workplace conflicts escalate not because of the initial problem, but because of how we respond to aggression. And here's what most people don't realize. When someone becomes aggressive, their brain literally shuts down rational thinking. The amygdala hijacks their prefrontal cortex, putting them in fight or flight mode. But what if I told you there are 7 specific verbal patterns, scientifically proven psychological techniques that can actually reverse this neurological state? Words so powerful they can transform an aggressor's anger into regret in under 2 minutes? Machiavelli discovered something remarkable. The people who successfully diffuse aggressive behavior aren't the loudest, the toughest, or even the most logical. They're the ones who understand a counterintuitive truth about human psychology, something Machiavelli teachings is going to reveal to you today. These aren't passive techniques. These aren't about backing down. This is about tactical communication, the kind that makes aggressive people stop mid-sentence, reconsider their behavior, and in many cases, actually apologize for their actions. Whether you're dealing with a hostile coworker, an enraged family member, a confrontational stranger, or anyone who's crossed the line into aggressive behavior, these 7 verbal tricks will give you back control of the conversation. And there is a warning to you. Some of these techniques will feel unnatural at first. They go against every instinct you have when someone attacks you verbally, but that's exactly why they work. So let's dive into the first technique. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll never handle aggression the same way again. 1. Label and reset. The tone. Machiavelli would say, the real king in any room isn't the loudest voice, it's the one who controls the tone. When someone snaps at you, your instinct is to snap back. That's exactly how you lose. In Machiavellian terms, you've just stepped onto their battlefield, under their rules. The first verbal trick flips that completely. You don't fight the attack, you label it and reset the tone. Here's the line. I want to keep this respectful. Your tone feels sharp. Can we restart? Simple, but deadly in the best way. First, notice what you're doing. You're not insulting them. You're not shouting. You calmly name the behavior. Your tone feels sharp. Machiavelli wrote that power is often perception. When you calmly describe what's happening, you become the observer, not the victim. You quietly step into the higher ground. Second, you offer a restart. That's crucial. You're giving them a face-saving escape route. Can we restart? You're saying, I see what's happening, and I'm giving you a chance to adjust without losing status. Most people will take that deal because it lets them dial back the aggression without having to openly admit they were out of line. Third, this line sends a clear message to everyone watching, coworkers, friends, even family. You set the standard. You're not passive, you're not reactive. You're the one who defines what is and isn't acceptable in this conversation. That's pure Machiavellian power, but clean and ethical. Use this when someone's voice gets tight, sarcastic, or cutting. Pause, breathe, look them in the eye and say, I want to keep this respectful. Your tone feels sharp. Can we restart? You'll be surprised how often the room goes quiet for a second, and then they soften. That tiny moment of silence, that's respect shifting toward you. And once you can reset the tone, the next tricks become much easier to use. 2. Vent or solve fork. Here's a Machiavellian secret. The fastest way to disarm an angry person is with a question, not a comeback. When someone is in your face, raising their voice, throwing accusations, your instinct is to defend, explain, or attack back. Machiavelli would say, the one who controls the frame controls the fight, and this trick does exactly that. This move is called the vent or solve fork. In the middle of their aggression, you calmly drop one line. Do you want me just to listen, or should we find a fix together? Simple, right? But it's psychologically brutal in a clean, respectful way. First, it forces them to choose a lane. Are they here to explode or to solve? Most aggressive people don't even realize they're just venting their emotions at you. When you ask this, you quietly hold up a mirror. Look at what you're doing right now. That alone makes many people soften and feel a little embarrassed. Second, you take back control without shouting. You're not begging, you're not apologizing, you're not attacking. You're calmly setting the rules of the interaction. That's pure Machiavellian power, staying cold while they burn hot. If they say, "I just want to vent," you can reply, "Okay, I'll listen, but let's keep it respectful." You've now created a boundary, and they agreed to it if they say, "Let's fix it, the fight is already dying." You've shifted them from attack mode to solution mode, and they did it by choice. That's where the quiet "sorry" usually starts creeping in later. And if they refuse to choose, they end up looking unreasonable to everyone around, while you look calm, fair, and mature. So remember, next time someone comes at you with full aggression, don't dive into their chaos. Pause, breathe, then ask, "Do you want me just to listen, or should we find a fix together?" That one question can turn a screaming match into a moment of self-reflection and make an aggressive person realize they're the one who went too far. 3. Receipt readback. What if I told you there's a single sentence that can make an aggressive person hear themselves and feel sorry without you attacking back? This is what I call the receipt readback, and Machiavelli would have loved it because it uses their own words to change their behavior while you stay calm and in control. Here's how it works. When someone is being harsh, emotional, or unfair, most people either fight back or shut down. Both reactions give the aggressive person power. Instead, you calmly hold up a mirror with one line. "Here's exactly what I heard you say." Ooh, is that accurate? You're not insulting them. You're not exaggerating. You're just reading the receipt of what they actually said. His does 3 Machiavellian things at once. It freezes the moment. Instead of the argument escalating, everything pauses. Their brain suddenly switches from attacking you to hearing themselves. It forces self-reflection. When their own harsh words are repeated back in a neutral tone, many people instantly realize, "Whoa, that does sound bad." It traps them in honesty. If they say, "Yes, that's accurate," they're admitting they meant it that way. If they say, "No, that's not what I meant," you've just opened the door to soften and reframe the conversation. The key is your delivery. Relaxed body, steady voice, no sarcasm. You're not saying, "Listen how rude you are." You're saying, "This is what I heard. Is this really what you want to say?" Very often you'll see them backpedal. "Okay, I didn't mean it like that. I'm just stressed. I'm sorry, that came out wrong." That's the power of receipt readback. You don't overpower them. You let reality overpower them. Use this line when someone raises their voice, makes a personal attack, or throws an unfair accusation. Instead of being dragged into their storm, you become the calm judge, reading back the transcript. And in that calm space, aggression often turns into embarrassment. Embarrassment often turns into "I'm sorry." 4. Shared standard check. What if you could corner an aggressive person using fairness as the trap? Not with anger, not with insults. Just one calm question that makes them stop, think, and quietly realize, "Wait, I'm not being fair here." That's the power of the shared standard check, a move Machiavelli would have loved because it wins the battle without starting a war. Here's the line. What rule would be fair for both of us to follow right now? You use this when someone is coming at you hard, raising their voice, demanding things from you that they would never accept for themselves. Instead of defending, just drop this question. Notice what it does. You're not attacking them, you're not calling them a hypocrite, but you are forcing them into a mirror. Machiavelli understood that real power is in who defines the rules. With this one sentence, you take the power back. You're saying, if you want to keep pushing, we're going to play by the same rule book. And that's uncomfortable for anyone who's running on double standards. Imagine your boss barking because you were 5 minutes late when he strolls in late all the time. Instead of arguing, you say, "Okay, what rule would be fair for both of us to follow about being on time?" Now he has only two choices: admit a harsh rule that will also apply to him, or soften the rule to something reasonable. Either way, the aggression drops. The audience watching, they feel the shift. You didn't shout, you didn't complain. You simply asked for a rule that applies to both sides. That's the secret. The word both. It sounds gentle, but it's a blade. It cuts through the chaos, exposes the double standard, and makes an aggressive person feel that subtle sting of guilt, the kind that often ends in a quiet, "Yeah, you're right, I'm sorry." 5. Graceful out prompt. What if you could make an aggressive person want to soften their words without ever asking them to say sorry? That's exactly what this Machiavellian trick does. Machiavelli understood something brutal about human nature. People will cling to their pride even when they know they've gone too far. If you attack that pride head-on, they defend harder. But if you give them a safe way out, they often walk themselves back. That's where the graceful out prompt comes in. When someone snaps at you, instead of firing back or shutting down, you calmly say, "If that came out stronger than you intended, I'm open to a rephrase." Listen to what that sentence secretly does. You're not accusing, you're not begging. You're giving them a story that protects their ego. "Maybe I didn't mean it like that." You hand them a little exit door where they can keep their dignity and fix their mistake. Psychologically, it flips the power. The aggressive person thought they were in control of the moment, but now you're the calm one setting the terms of the conversation. You're the one who decides, "I'm open to continuing, but differently." There's also a hidden test inside this line. If they're decent but heated, they'll usually pause and say something like, "Yeah, okay, let me put that another way," or even, "Sorry, that was harsh." If they double down and get nastier, they expose themselves as someone who wants to be cruel. Now you know exactly who you're dealing with, and you can choose stronger boundaries. The genius of this trick is that it's cold and kind at the same time. No drama, no raised voice, just a quiet invitation. Do you want to be your better self or not? Use it once the moment gets sharp. Look them in the eye, steady tone, and drop it. "If that came out stronger than you intended, I'm open to a rephrase," and then stay silent. Let them feel the weight of their own words. 6. Third-person mirror. What if you could make an aggressive person judge their own behavior without accusing them of anything at all? That's exactly what this Machiavellian-style move does. Machiavelli taught that real power doesn't always confront head-on. It quietly shifts perspective until your opponent traps themselves. The third-person mirror is a verbal trick that forces an aggressive person to hear their own words from the outside, and suddenly they don't sound so strong anymore. They sound harsh, unfair, even embarrassing. The line is simple. If a friend heard this wording, how do you think it would land? You're not shouting back. You're not defending yourself. You're not calling them rude. You're doing something much smarter. You're inviting them to step outside their own anger and listen as a neutral observer. Psychologically, this does three things at once. Creates distance. Their words are no longer my justified reaction. They become something another person might hear. Triggers empathy. They have to imagine someone else's reaction, not just their own anger. Invites self-correction, because they are now the one evaluating their words, not you. Picture this. Someone snaps at you in a meeting. Instead of arguing, you pause, look calm, and say, "If a friend heard this wording, how do you think it would land on them?" Then you stay quiet. That silence is crucial. It's the Machiavellian part. You're not pushing. You're letting their own conscience do the work. Very often, they'll soften instantly. "Okay, maybe I said that a bit harshly. I didn't mean it like that. Sorry, let me rephrase." Important. Your tone must be curious, not sarcastic. If you sound like you're attacking, the spell breaks. If you sound genuinely reflective, their brain shifts from fight to think. Used well, the third-person mirror turns you from the victim of their aggression into the quiet, composed judge of the situation. And once they start editing their own words in front of you, you've already won the power game without raising your voice. 7. Not you. Frame. What if you could stop an angry person mid-rant, not by overpowering them, but by quietly reminding them who they really are? That's pure Machiavelli. Instead of attacking someone's behavior head-on, you speak to their identity, to the image they want to protect. And that's exactly what the not you frame does. The line is simple. This doesn't sound like you at your best. Can we try that again? You're not saying you're rude or you're out of line. You're saying you are better than this, and I'm willing to treat you like that better version. That hits very differently. When someone is aggressive, their ego is in fight mode. If you attack them, they double down. But when you separate them from their behavior, you create a gap, you versus this version of you right now. Most people will instinctively want to step back into the better version. Machiavelli understood that people will do almost anything to protect their reputation. With this line, you're offering them a face-saving exit. You're basically saying, I see you as a decent, reasonable person, but what you're doing now doesn't fit. Do you want to adjust? Notice the second part. Can we try that again? That tiny question is powerful. It's not a command, it's an invitation. It tells them, you're not here to humiliate them. You're willing to reset. They still have control over how this plays out. Used calmly, with steady eye contact and a grounded tone, this one sentence can make an aggressive person pause, feel a flash of guilt, and self-correct, often with a softer voice, a different choice of words, or even an apology. So the next time someone comes at you sharp, don't shout them down. Look them in the eye and gently say, this doesn't sound like you at your best. Can we try that again? You'll be surprised how often they do. So, the next time someone's voice cracks, eyes narrow, and the room goes tense, you're not the victim anymore. You're the one holding the remote. Think about what you've got now. Instead of freezing or exploding, you can label and reset the tone. You can fork the moment, vent or solve. You can read back the receipt of their own words, call them to a shared standard, offer a graceful way out, force a pause with the third-person mirror, and, when it really matters, remind them of their best self with the not you frame. These 7 lines aren't magic spells. They're something more dangerous. They're choices. In that split second when your heart jumps and your brain wants to fight back, you now have options that most people don't. That's where real power lives. Machiavelli never said, be the loudest. He showed that the person who understands human nature quietly wins. You're not here to humiliate people, to dominate rooms, or to play cartoon villain. You're here to stay calm in the storm, protect your dignity, and make sure that if anyone walks away embarrassed, it's not you. One day soon, someone will snap at you and your old instinct will flare. But instead of taking the bait, you'll feel that tiny pause in your mind, and in that pause, you'll hear a line from this video. That's the moment you stop being controlled and start controlling the conversation. If this video gave you even one line you're going to use in real life, do this for yourself. Drop a comment. Which of the 7 tricks are you going to try first, and with who? Hit like, because it tells the algorithm more people need this instead of shouting matches. And if you want a real Machiavellian toolkit for modern life, subscribe to Machiavelli Teachings and turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. In the next video, I'm going to break down how to win an argument without sounding like you're arguing at all, the kind of social stealth that gets you your way while everyone else thinks it was their idea. Until then, remember, you don't control other people's anger, but you do control the script that makes them sorry. I'll see you in the next one.